ladies and gentlemen.
We are live, Charios.
This meeting is now called to order. We are the Historic Districts Review Board, and today is March the 12th, 2024. Amanda, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. Madam Chair Rios,
Here,
Vice Chair Guida,
excused.
Member Valdo,
Here.
Member Benvenu,
Here.
Member Bescheid,
Here.
Member Aguilar Medrano,
Excused.
Member Mather.
Excused.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Charios, there are no changes.
No changes. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Beachside seconds.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Benvenu,
Yes.
Member Valdo,
Yes.
Member Bescheid,
Yes.
Madam
Yes.
Chair, it's approved. Thank you.
Thank you. We have minutes of February the 27th, 2024. Changes to these minutes, board members or staff? Yes, Member Beachside.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have one change on page 11, the last paragraph, last sentence, just before the applicant presentation. The last sentence should read, "She didn't see what character defining features are contributed by the side facades."
Any other changes?
No, thank you.
Member Benvenu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On page 16, in the third full paragraph in the middle where it's just the sentence that begins, "It doesn't seem that," delete "doesn't" and add an S to "seem" so that it reads, "It seems that." And then on page 28, 2/3 of the way down the page, states Member Bienvenu said it's an interesting and beautiful project. After the words Canyon Road, add the words "with pitched roofs, comma, but," and delete the period. Continue with "This property is surrounded by more traditional flat roof properties," then add before the period in the back. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other changes, staff or board members? If not, is there a motion to approve as amended?
Beachside so moves.
I second the motion.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Benvenu,
Yes.
Member Valdo,
Yes.
Member Bescheid,
Yes.
Madam Chair, your motion has.
Thank you. We have one finding the fact and conclusions of law, which is from February the 13th, 2024. Any changes to this particular one? Anyone? Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve them.
Beachside seconds.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Benvenu,
Yes.
Member Valdo,
Yes.
Member Bescheid,
Yes.
Madam Chair, your findings have been approved.
Thank you. Matters from the public. Anyone here wishing to speak on something related to H Board? You may come forward. It appears not. Anyone on Zoom?
Yes, Charios. Stephanie Benenato would like to speak. One moment. IT, can you promote me so that I can allow somebody to speak? One moment. Thank you. This is Miss Stephanie Benenato. Stephanie, you may unmute.
Thank you. I also found it better if I was permitted to participant when I was at City Council and doing this virtually, but I hope that you will be able to hear me. And I wanted to say a couple of things. First, about St. John's College and the request to review its status. I don't really see anything that would prevent you from doing that. I do remember the architect railing against the idea that you could even have a significant building, and that the ordinance itself was highly restrictive and it was being misapplied, and was pretty rude all the way through that presentation. Now it seems like they decided they could get grant money or get loans, and so are now playing on this status, even though the historic material has been actually removed from these facades. They're not just, another structure is attached, but they have been removed. And so again, I think it's somewhat hypocritical and off-putting to say, well, they're applying for this historic status, and we don't want to disturb that process. So anyway, I just am pointing that out to you all. And oh yes, and I tried to go on YouTube, and I wasn't able, even after the meeting 5:30, it should have started. It wasn't coming up as the latest live meeting. So I'm just pointing that out to you, that some people may be having trouble with YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom?
Chair Rios.
We'll move on to staff communications. Do you have anything to tell us?
At this point, Chair Rios, there are no communications other than we have not finalized the list of nominations for the Preservation Awards, which is to be held on May 9th. And so we would like to go ahead and get through the process of setting up the program and everything. So if you have any nominations, please let us know by the end of the week. That'll be the hard deadline.
That is the deadline, the end of this week?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We have nothing under old business, and we have 5 cases under new business. If you are a person that's from the public and wishes to comment on a case, you will have 2 minutes to speak. Also, if you disagree with the decision that this board renders this evening, you do have the option to appeal to the city council, and you'll have 15 days after the findings of fact and conclusions of law have been approved. And this evening, we have a lot of cases for status review, and I would ask applicants to please stick to the status review and not delve into what that project might want to do in the future, because that is what is advertised and that is what we are looking at this evening. So with that being said, Paul, the first case this evening is at 718 Old Santa Fe Trail. Will you give us your report?
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members. Thank you for being here this evening. This case is case number 2024-007892 HDRB 718 Old Santa Fe Trail. 718 Old Santa Fe Trail is a single family residence listed as significant to the downtown and Eastside Historic District. The main residence on the property was built around 1880 on a 0.23 acre lot and comprised of a 2-bedroom, 944 square foot home. The architectural design style is quintessential Santa Fe vernacular, as seen by the adobe block construction material, rectangular shaped construction, red brick coping, flat roof, and irregular windows and doors on the southern facade. The main house has undergone an evolution of construction and additions with maintenance and repair. The structure was given significant status in 1982, and staff recommends it maintain the significant status as it is a direct reflection of the architectural design of its time and place. Here we can see the main house, the south and east elevations. Here is the west elevation and a part of the north elevation. Casita 1, identified by Mr. Murphy in his historical cultural properties inventory survey in 2023, of the property describes this home as a modest vernacular style home constructed out of adobe block, wooden vigas, and recessed windows. It is unknown of the initial date of construction, but most likely around 1928. Casita 1 has been unkept and most likely uninhabitable for some time and has fallen into disrepair. Staff recommends Casita 1 as non-contributing status. Here on Casita 1 is the north and east elevations. And Casita 1, the south and west elevations. Casita 2 is built in the same modest vernacular style as Casita 1. It is uncertain the exact date of the construction, but most likely similar to that as Casita 1 in 1928. The structure has been given a significant status in 1982. It is unknown when the status, why the status was given. However, it was given in this time frame. The structure has now become in a state of disrepair and uninhabitable. Staff recommends Casita 2 to be downgraded from significant to non-contributing status. Here is Casita 2, the north and east and west elevations. The tool shed on the property was constructed opportunistically with material from around the property. The exact date of construction is unknown. However, the owner stated it being built around the 1980s. The shed has no significant architectural features and serves the residents as a storage space. Given the approximate date of construction and the general design, staff recommends the tool shed as non-contributing status. Here is a historic map, historic Sanborn map from 1912 showing the initial construction and structures of the property. The Benino Muniz family, the Lovato family, and the Ortega family. Currently, the Ortega family residence and the Lovato family structures are no longer there. Casita 1, the main house, Casita 1, Casita 2, and the Lovato house that is no longer there. This is a 1935 aerial photograph showing the structure's location. Here's a plat map from 1939 showing track 1, the Muniz family, the main residence, and then identified as A. B is the Lovato house that is no longer there, and C and D, which is C would be Casita 2, D would be Casita 1. Here's a wonderful historic photograph of the applicant's family. And it's a great illustration of the main residence. And we can see the regular windows, the brick coping on the parapet, and just that long south facade. Here is a 1958 aerial photograph of the property showing the location of the main residence. You can start seeing on the aerial photograph of the roof as it moves eastwardly and the delineations of new construction throughout time. The two casitas, Casita 1 and Casita 2, and there's no longer the presence of the Lovato house. This is a 1973 aerial photograph showing again the main residence, the Muniz family home. You can see again in the aerial photograph of the continuation of growth in that home. And then in Casita 1 and Casita 2, you can see their locations as well as the shed. This is another great photograph from the applicants. Mrs. Rivera shared with courtesy of John Murphy, just showing that southern facade on the main residence, how the change has been very minimal. And it's just a great representation of time and past to present. And I think that's just a wonderful photograph. So staff recommends the historic status of the main structure be maintained as significant as seen in this diagram in this aerial photograph. Casita 1 as non-contributing, Casita 2 downgraded to non-contributing, and the tool shed as non-contributing per 14-5.2C designation of significant and contributing structures. Staff stands for questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Paul. You indicated that Casita 1 was never given a historic status. Is that correct? And Casita 2 was given a significant status. Today on the field trip, in my looking at the two buildings, do you think it appears that Casita 1 has more character defining features? It's more of a complete house, more windows, doors, etc. And Casita 2 is more of a more plain building. Do you suppose that there was an error made when the survey was being done?
Chair Rios, members of the board, yes, ma'am. I believe they may have made a mistake. Most likely they were looking at Casita 1 as representing as significant and not Casita 2. However, in our database, Casita 2 is the one that is documented as significant and Casita 1 as having no status.
And you are recommending both Casita 1 and 2 to not have historic status, correct?
Chair
Not-
Rios,
Non-contributing.
Chair Rios, members of the board, that is correct.
Thank you. Other questions or comments for Paul at this time? Board members? Member Benvenue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So thank you, Paul, for the report and all the materials and the information on the field trip today. We had some discussions, or we're going to have some discussions about some of the differences of opinion, perhaps, on the contributing versus non-contributing status. And what I gather from the report is that your recommendation for downgrading Casita, I think it's 2 rather, is really related solely to its state of disrepair. Is that correct?
Chair Rios, member of Bienvenue, that is correct.
Okay. And, you know, I do grant that the interior, more than the exterior, it's hard to say, of course, without a full report, the interior does have some pretty severe problems. It looks like parts of the roof are collapsing in some of the rooms, just from a quick visual inspection. And there's obvious problems with the floor and some of the walls. But basically, the building seems rather intact. And I guess, I mean, you would agree, wouldn't you, that if you set aside the issue about condition, there'd be no question, would there, that this should be maintained as a contributing structure, given its age, its historic integrity, and in particular, I think the way it interacts with the main building, which is significant. They date from the same era. They form a compound. They speak to each other across the open space between them. So if you just set aside the physical condition of it, there wouldn't be any question, would there?
Rios, member of Bienvenue, not at all, no way.
Okay. And I guess I just have a disagreement about that interpretation of the code, because I don't see anything in the code in the definitions of contributing, non-contributing, or significant, or status generally, that refers to the condition, the physical condition of the property. It refers to integrity, but it refers to historic integrity. And I think the clear intent of the code is whether or not it's been altered such that it no longer appears as it did in historic times, not its physical condition, which is addressed elsewhere, specifically in the demolition requirements. So I guess I'm just not sure how we would import a consideration at this status stage for consideration of the condition, especially since we don't have any of the information we would be given if there was a request for an alteration of a contributing structure. It's a removal of historic materials or a demolition, where we would require actual structural information, right?
Chair Rios, member of Bienvenue, that is correct.
Okay. And I guess the problem in this case, you know, I'm sympathetic to the landowner in the sense that it's clear that the problems that this property have or not, it's not their doing. This predates their acquisition of the property. And by acquisition, I don't mean a purchase. I mean, maybe there was a partial purchase, I don't know, but the family, it is family property. But it was another member of the family, I think, and another owner that allowed this state of disrepair to take place, correct?
Chair Rios, member Bienvenu, that is correct.
So again, I guess I'm just pointing out, I would personally have a very difficult time agreeing to a downgrade of a property that seems highly significant, not in the quote unquote term of art sense used in the ordinance, although it may even qualify for that, given the association with the family as well. But certainly its significance as to the streetscape and the historic fabric of Santa Fe. And if there were requests for change due to structural problems, that can be addressed at a later date, regardless of what status it maintains, correct?
Chair Rios, member Bienvenu, that is correct.
I just wanted to get some clarification and speak some of my concerns about the notion of downgrading that property. The other property, the other casita does seem to be an erroneous designation as significant to my mind and would be more appropriately designated as contributing as you've recommended. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Other board members have any comments or clarifications for Paul? None at this time. Is the applicant here or applicants, please come forward and get sworn in.
Check.
Not sure what I do. I'm Emily Rivera.
Good evening.
One moment.
And you both need to get sworn in.
Okay. Would you state your name and give your address, please?
Emily Rivera, 4709 15th Avenue Northeast, Rio Rancho, New Mexico.
Okay, and your name, sir, and your address?
Vera, 4709 15th Avenue.
Okay, would you both raise your right hands, please? I'm the Assistant City Attorney, all right? Do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, and do this under the penalties of perjury?
I do.
Do.
Thank you. And I would ask you both to lean in there and speak right into that mic. What do you have to tell us about these 3 homes?
Well, it was built by my great-grandfather, Benino Muniz, and it's been in our family for as long as I can remember. And my mom actually moved us back to Santa Fe to take care of it after my great aunt passed away in the 80s. She was the last of his daughters that was caring for the property. And it became difficult for our family to manage. They had moved to California at that time. And my mom recognized that the house was falling into disrepair. So in 1988, we moved from San Pedro back to Santa Fe. And so I lived in the back house. That was my grandmother's house that was deeded from my great-grandfather to her, and went to high school, went to St. Mike's, enjoyed it, spent all my time there. And then around the 2000s, it was after my dad passed away that my mom had a very difficult time caring for the property. She was the only family member that was maintaining it, collecting rent, doing the repairs. And as you know, a home of that age is quite difficult to maintain on your own on a very modest income. So she entered into an agreement to try to consolidate it all in her name. There were multiple heirs at that point in time, but it became very contentious and some of the family members didn't agree with that. So consequently, Casita 1 and 2 fell to other family members, and it fell into disrepair at that time based on all the lawsuits that were going back and forth. It wasn't until 2018 that my mom was able to actually purchase that side of the property from the other family members and consolidate it back under all of the original Benino Muniz family, myself included. And then she passed away very unexpectedly in 2022. So, sorry, it still feels very recent for me. So she did not survive to see it all deeded in her name. So I finished that project in December of this last year and now have it all in my name. My goal, my wish is just to try to do the best I can, particularly to maintain the main house, which was my great grandfather's. He's the one that built it. The other two casitas are in very rough condition. I understand it's not the objective of this board to make the determination on that, but if I could, I would do that too. But I know that the main house is the one that was always intended for our family, for my great grandfather to have for his daughters, my grandmother and my two great aunts, and then to pass on to us, his descendants. And so to the best of my ability, I want to be able to do that. Sorry, it's been a long time coming since the 80s to finally get to today. So.
Ms. Rivera, I am very glad that you have come here this evening to express your thoughts and feelings in reference to this family homes that you have. And I commend you for also wanting to keep these family homes. There aren't that many longtime Santa Fans that have kept their family homes. In my neighborhood, I have noticed many, many sales of homes. And so I do commend you for that. And I always feel that it's important to hear from the applicant themselves because they are the ones that are maintaining the property, paying the taxes on the property. And according to what you've just told us, wanting to have these buildings survive, at least the main building that you are indicating. And I'm going to guess that you agree with the assessment that that Paul made. That
Absolutely. Yes, I do. The main home is very significant, I think, not only to our family, but I think to Santa Fe. I mean, my great grandfather was one of the editors of the New Mexican in Spanish. He was a band leader that was part of Fiestas in its heyday. And he was very involved in everything in the community. I mean, they would watch the Fiestas go down Old Santa Fe Trail in that day from the front portal. So, I mean, I just feel like that's an important piece of Santa Fe for all of us.
it was really interesting and wonderful for us to be on the field trip today. How many of us have gone down Old Santa Fe Trail and past these homes and you kind of look at them, but you look at them very quickly. But today we looked at them and gave them their due for their age. You know, if a home is from 1880s and 1920s, we on this board really have to take a very close look at them to see what we can preserve. And I do have to tell you that I know that Casita One, the White House, the roof is caving in, but we on this board have seen worse than that. And, you know, I'm hoping, I'm going to ask Heather if there is any program or any kind of help. I don't know what where the board is going to go on this for sure, but should the board decide to keep Casita 1 and 2 as given historic status, is there anything that can help Ms. Rivera money-wise, financially? Any grants out there, any programs, tax credits? Can you delve into this?
Thank you, Chair Rios. Yes, there are. In fact, just this year, the city of Santa Fe, in collaboration with the Historic Santa Fe Foundation, I got a grant to initiate a program to allow for long-term residents to help them remain in the historic districts. And so we've partnered together with a number of contractors as well as Habitat for Humanity and the Historic Santa Fe Foundation, so we can provide the technical expertise in getting permits processed and all of that, and then also the construction assistance. So I would actually recommend to the Historic Santa Fe Foundation, this is a good candidate for that. Because not only is the historic fabric important, but also the families that have lived here are very important as well.
Thank you. So depending on what is decided on this evening, I would really strongly suggest that you talk to Heather and look into this more deeply. Thank you. Let's see what board members have to ask you, unless the gentleman wishes to speak. No? Okay, thank you. Board members, questions, comments? Yes, Member Beachside.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you so much for your presentation. It's quite moving, actually. And it is a special property. As Chair Rios mentioned, it's pretty rare these days to see original families in possession of their original family home. And so I feel like it's important to ask you, what you envision for the property, not in terms of change, but in terms of protections. You seem to indicate that the significant status is what you would desire for the main house. But my concern is that in making those sorts of designations, it restricts the family to what can be done with the property. And there are exception processes and that, but I think you know it obviously much better than all of us. And I just want to make sure that this property obviously developed over time with input from your family, with them as the decision makers and stewards of the property. And we want to make sure that we're continuing that process. So I guess we would like to hear from you in terms of the status designations, if you understand what those mean and you have an opinion about how that should be carried forward.
I know a little bit about what it means. I certainly am not as educated as you all are on what the significant status means, but in terms of changing the main house, I have no desire to change the look, feel of it, other than just to improve the things that I can, the stucco, the roof, fix the things there and bring it back to hopefully some of what it should be, and not what it is today. I realize that that's not a process that will be fast, and that will take time and resources. Originally, when my great-grandfather built it, it was to be for his daughters, right? To always have a home in Santa Fe. But over time, they moved, people go on with their lives. You don't realize that when you build a home, you think your generations will always be here. But it became more of a rental for modest families to live there and be comfortable. And my mom continued that. She never charged exorbitant rent. She kept it reasonable for the local people of Santa Fe to rent. And I've continued that as well for the tenants. So my goal is to continue to maintain it, but not to create such a mansion or palace that people could not afford to live there. My great-grandfather used to gamble with Witterbinner and trade property lines and, do a lot of things like that. I was very involved with the arts, very much encouraged artists to rent and be a part of his property. And I think that there's something significant in all of Santa Fe about that, right? I want to honor that tradition. And although I may not live there, or my children may not live there today, I have lived there. And I think it should be accessible to people to be there and that live and work and are part of Santa Fe.
Staff has recommended non-contributing status for the two casitas. And I think that there seems to be some discussion among the board that maybe those should be, one or two of those should be contributing rather than non-contributing. Is that something you agree with?
I certainly understand based on I could see why that recommendation would, Paul's recommendation, non-contributing because of the state of disrepair, I understand would probably have to happen at a different time. I've got considerations and things there that make me concerned that I can't save the facade and the structural elements of it, even within my lifetime or within my means to make that viable. But I don't know that could be decided here, so.
Okay, thank you for your input. Appreciate that.
Any other board members wish to comment at this time? Member Benvenu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, it's a very special property. And what you're doing with it is very special. And what your mother did is very special as well. And, you know, I mean, back to your great grandfather building as a very significant figure, maybe a little bit unsung in Santa Fe's history, but had a huge impact on the city. And it was interesting also to read in the Hickory report that it was also the house was a social center during that era of time as well, which I think would be a history definitely should be done by someone in the family or someone soon. But, you know, so we kind of come up against this problem of the ordinance wanting to protect historic fabric, but and then how does that allow people to continue to live in places that either need to be altered to fit changing family circumstances or just too expensive to maintain? And you know, I'd just like to say that I personally don't think the ordinance is necessarily in conflict between those two goals. I consider this to be not only historic fabric, but cultural fabric. And so to me, the importance of that of the casitas is not just, oh, well, there's some nice buildings there, we want to keep them. Those are very significant features of our cultural history as well. And the interaction on the site of the buildings is very important part of our cultural history as well, because that really speaks to family compounds. And all of that could easily disappear, and it has disappeared in many places. And if those buildings were no longer there, you would still have a beautiful, significant building, but you would no longer have the same cultural and historical significance that the site has today. And then as far as the cost and concerns about taking this on, I completely understand that. It's the problem of stewardship, because you've taken on a legacy property now, and rightfully so, and all congratulations to you for undertaking that. But that is sort of the responsibility that comes along with it as well. And it's actually built into our code, and I'm sure you share it. I have no doubt. I'm not saying anything to you you don't already feel and are pursuing. But our code very specifically also speaks to the fact that owners of properties in our historic district have an obligation to maintain them and prevent them from falling into disrepair. It could be ordered and should be ordered to do so. So this is not your fault whatsoever, but certainly the predecessor owner was in contravention of that aspect of our ordinance. And now you're sort of left with that problem now to fix. But I do think it's a fixable problem. And I've seen properties where all that was left in the renovation were the walls, and everything was taken out on the inside, all new plumbing, all new electricity, all new floors, new roof. But you maintain the historic integrity of the property because you're just changing the interior. And I'm certain that could be done here. Cost is another matter, of course. And there, I think that it's very clear that I'm very hopeful that if you do decide to renovate and not come back for a demolition request, that we could find, or you could find, and the community could find, I'm looking at John Eddy, some funds to help you with this project, because I do think it's a very significant part of Santa Fe history. Thank you for what you're doing.
For your comments, Member Benvenu. Anyone else? Anyone in this audience wishing to speak regarding this project, please come forward and get sworn in.
Would you state your name and address, please?
Christopher Purvis,
And what is your address, Mr. Purvis?
818 Camino Atalaya.
Mr. Purvis, do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, and do this under the penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Chair, Mr. Purvis is sworn.
And Madam Chair, members of the board, there is more money from the Cultural Properties Review Committee, $25,000 tax credit each year. I just want you to know about that.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Chris.
Good evening, sir. Would you raise your right hand, state your name and address, please?
Yes, Richard Martinez, PO Box 925 Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Mr. Martinez, do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth under the penalty of perjury?
I do. It's true what Christopher said about having tax credits available from the state, up to 50% of the renovation, approved renovation of which means 25,000 up to $25,000. And if it's anything like what I have done in Pecos, is that you dole out the renovations in little pieces so that you can keep getting that $25,000 again and again. But also I just wanted to mention that tonight it was considered that the main house be of significant status, which means that all 4 elevations would be protected, and yet we've only seen 2 elevations of that house. We have no idea what the backside or the other side looks like. I wouldn't necessarily consider this to be significant, maybe contributing, and those 2 elevations would be primary elevations, but perhaps significance is not ideal. Thank you.
Thank you. And in reference to the tax credits, I believe that if you want to apply for the tax credits, you have to not do anything to the house prior to applying, correct?
Yes, they are for renovation work that is in compliance with the cultural significance of the house. And the state for those credits looks at the inside of the house as well as the outside of the house. So I'm just letting you know it's a process in itself, but it's possible to do.
Thank you, Richard.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Would you state your name and address, please?
Raymond M. Herrera, 379 Hillside Avenue.
Okay. Mr. Herrera, do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, and do this under the penalty of perjury? Madam Chair, Mr. Herrera is sworn.
Madam Chair and members of the board, I've been looking at this house lately, coming down Old Santa Fe Trail, and I was wondering when it was going to come before you guys. I am familiar with the Muniz family, having grown up here in Santa Fe, just some blocks up East Manhattan from Old Santa Fe Trail. I remember the name. It was the last person I remember was a woman, and I can't remember her name. But she was very involved politically and everything else. And so the name of Muniz has been part of Santa Fe in my lifetime. Anyway, this house, as far as I'm concerned, is really a gem. I think that it merits the historic designation that it's getting. And also, I think if it's possible that the casitas be designated as contributing, because they are part of the fabric of this property. And we're losing a lot of these old properties around town. And this could be made into a beautiful compound. Unfortunately, it's expensive and all that stuff, but I think with what the other people have said about tax credits and everything, that it might be possible to achieve a beautiful compound with making the other 2 casitas contributing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Herrera.
You state your name and give us your address, please.
My name is John Eddy. My address is number 14 Avenida Campo Verde.
Thank you. Mr. Eddy, do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, and do this under the penalties of perjury?
I do. Thank you. Madam Chair, board members, I cannot agree more with everything that's already been said tonight. Everything that needs to be said to these applicants has been stated already. And I'm really proud of you on the board for doing this, as well as the people coming from the gallery. This property is a gem. I've been watching it for years. And I think that status should be maintained, certainly as contributing for all of the casitas, because of the fact that they are part of the historic footprint on that area of that family. So this is an incredible record for the Moniz family of their history of their development in Santa Fe. It is a very, very significant family, which is part of why the main house is significant, because of the personages involved. It's not all just about architecture, but it's about the people that live there. John Murphy did an incredible report on this property, and it contains so much family history that I'm really grateful to the applicants for having done that report with Mr. Murphy. So I also think it's important for you to straighten out the flip-flop on significance between the two casitas. But I think the simplest way to do that is to keep them both upgraded as contributing. I look forward to this property coming back over time. I know it's not going to be cheap, but as the chairwoman says, we have done this in Santa Fe many times, and we can continue to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eddy. Anyone else in this audience wishing to speak on this particular project? No one else. Is there anyone on Zoom?
Yes, Chair Rios. Stephanie Benenato. Stephanie, you may speak
She needs to get sworn in.
and be sworn. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm here.
Ms. Benenato, would you raise your right hand, state your name and address, please?
Stephanie Benenato, PO Box 1601, Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Thank you. Ms. Benenato, do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, and do this under the penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Madam Chair, Ms. Benenato is sworn.
I too appreciate the history and significance of this property, having lived at 707 Old Santa Fe Trail for a while there and in that area on Berger. And I would appreciate it if the board would find the main house as significant. I think that the applicant is totally in agreement with that. I think also to help the applicant get funding, it would be important to designate one or more of the, or both of the casitas as contributing, because otherwise they will not be eligible for the kind of funding that could be needed. Although I actually have to say, I find this whole discussion about funding to be really inappropriate. And you know, again, this was in a family, members of families allowed it to degrade. They couldn't agree. It's really unfortunate when that happens. There's a structure up in Taos that's north of the church, Rancho de Taos, that's north of the church, that it was one of my most favorite structures, but it was a falling down adobe because the heirs couldn't agree as to what to do over like 30 years of time. So it's unfortunate. I'm so happy this current owner wants to do something. But again, I think that there is an issue of demolition by neglect. And if it's savable, then please do that. Because again, as you say, it's a cultural and historical property. The compound aspect is really important as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom?
No, Chair Rios.
No one else on Zoom. If the board has nothing further to say, I will entertain a motion at this time. Member Benvenu, you look eager to.
Well,
make a
no,
motion.
thank you, Madam Chair. I am eager, but I didn't know if perhaps Member Beachside had a comment.
Member Beachhead, did you have something
Yeah.
further?
Maybe just one thing. I think I just would like to review for the record what the John Murphy Hickey report recommends, which is contributing for the main house due to its alteration along the north elevation, which changed the shape of the building from a one room width all the way back. And then he recommended for casita number 1, non-contributing based on the condition mostly, it appears. And contributing for casita number 2 and non-contributing for the shed. I tend to agree with those aside from casita number 1, that all properties minus the shed should be contributing. And I think that it's easy to get sort of wrapped up in the story of the house, and that is certainly is part of the consideration. It's a very special property. I think we all are sort of moved by the story. I just don't want to overdo things with a significant status. I mean, it is about the people that live there and the people who live there now, who own the place. You know, that's the best hands that the property could be in. I have no doubt that this owner will take great care with the property, and I don't think we need to status things in an overabundance of caution to preserve what's there. I know we all want to sort of acknowledge it to the highest level because of its history and position in the community, but contributing is a great designation as well, and it also allows some flexibility. It allows for a status that supports funding or grant requests, and it doesn't go overboard just because of our sort of maybe emotional sort of attachment to the property. The building has been altered, and the historic professional has recommended contributing for that reason. There's also some non-historic doors and windows, and some that may be historic but not repairable. I just want to put that out there just for consideration.
Thank you for your comments, Member Beachside. Anybody else on the board have comments at this time? Any further comments? I will entertain a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sorry to interrupt you, Madam Chair. It would be very helpful to keep the record clear to take an individual vote on each structure.
Yes.
Would anybody have any objection to that? I think that would.
No, we always take an individual vote. Well,
All right, so in case 2024-007918 HDRB no, that's not correct. At all.
2024-007892.
I'll try it again. 2024-007892 HDRB 718 Old Santa Fe Trail. Taking these one at a time, the first motion would be that the main structure be maintained as significant in status for the reasons set forth in the staff report and on the record tonight.
Are you addressing?
Want me to go further? I thought you wanted to take these one at a time.
No, I think you wanted to keep. He wants to, you do want to do one.
It would be very helpful to keep the record straight to have a motion with respect to a single structure and
then a vote?
Yes.
Okay. If that's the wish is to make it clearer, we will go with that. Is there a second to the motion?
I second the motion.
May we have a roll call vote, please?
Member Benvenu,
Yes.
Member Valdo,
Yes.
Member Beashide,
No.
the motion has passed.
Thank you. Yes,
Madam Chair, and
Casita
in the
number
same
1.
case, I would move that casita number 1 be designated as contributing, with the primary facade being the north facade. Again, consistent, well, not consistent in this case, but based on the record that was provided prior to the hearing and the hearing tonight.
And is there a second to this motion?
I second the motion.
And may we have a roll call vote, please?
Member Benvenu,
Yes.
Member Waldo,
Yes.
Member Biesheuch.
Yes. Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion has passed.
Thank you, Amanda. And continue, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the same case, I would move that, again, based on the record as presented, the Casita 2 be redesignated as contributing with the north facade as primary.
Is there a second to this motion?
I also second the motion.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Benvenu,
Yes.
Member Waldo,
Yes.
Member Biesheuch.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion has passed.
Thank you very much. Would you address the shed?
Also in the same case, I would move that the tool shed be designated as non-contributing based on the record that indicates that it is not historic.
I also second the motion.
And roll call vote, please.
Member Benvenu, Member Waldo,
Yes.
Member Biesheuch.
Yes.
Madam Chair, your motion has passed.
Thank you very much. Yes, Member Biesheuch.
Sorry, this is out of order, but I believe in the designation of significant for the main house, we should exclude the non-historic doors and windows. I'm not sure how to go about that at this point.
Paul, what Member Biesheuch is referring to, that there are non-historic doors and windows. Are these within a historic period, or they are totally not within a historic period?
Chair Rios, is this for the
Yes, for the main house.
main house? Chair Rios, I'd have to get back to you on that. I don't know the answer for that. From my understanding, that main structure, the window sills, the doorways, they're all historic.
The doors and the windows are, maybe I should ask Ms. Rivera, she will know. Have those been replaced within the last 50 years?
Some have and some have not, but I probably actually know which have. So I could certainly inform the board if they wanted to know which. I think it's also obvious when you get close up which doors are new and which are not. So.
Member Benvenu, you want to alter your?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think so, only because this is we're just maintaining an existing status. We're not upgrading the status, in which case I think we would have wanted a record on that. We don't really have an adequate record to alter the original status finding that it maintains to this day, at least that I know of. I certainly would think that the applicant has every right to come back before us in the future and indicate and establish anything that's non-historic for the board's consideration if there was a desire to alter any of those. There would be nothing to preclude that, I don't think, in the significant designation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your explanation. I think that makes sense. It makes sense to me anyway. So your motion stands. Thank you. So we went through the main house and casita number 1 and casita number 2 and the shed. So I thank you for coming again and I wish you good luck. And please do look into the tax credits that you may be able to get and anything else that will be helpful to you in any way to protect this property. Thank you. Yes,
If I
Heather.
might add just one thing, an inspiration for keeping the 2 houses is that,
Okay, Ms. Rivera, hold on.
I'm sorry, for the 2 houses that you have, I know that they're in pretty rough shape, but just so that you know, current zoning would not allow 2 houses on that site. It would have to be 1. So just so you know, the setback is not big enough. Right.
Okay, thank you. We move on to the next case, which is located at 125 Dudon Street. And is the applicant for this here? Raise your hand. They are here. Okay. This is Ramon's case.
Having technical issues, just a moment.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. This is case 2024-007918-HDRB for status review and primary facade designations. One 125 Durand Street is located on the east side of the street, north of West San Francisco Street and east of Elena Street. The structure is contributing to the west side. Actually, the structure is non-contributing to the west side and Guadalupe historic districts. And the property here is, oh, it is contributing. I'm getting my cases confused. Sorry. It's a contributing property to the west side and Guadalupe historic district. The property here is outlined in red. This side, it's outlined. Planning and having problems.
Well, we really rely on this technology, but it's really a downer when it malfunctions, right?
Ramon,
But they're
run it
trying.
from here if you want.
Okay. I think we got it now. Sorry about
All
that.
right, thank you.
So as I was saying, 125 Durand Street is located on the east side of the street, north of West San Francisco Street and the east of Elena Street. The structure is contributing to the west side Guadalupe Historic District. The property is outlined here in red. This is the site plan, and it also shows the existing floor plan. This is an oblique photograph of the west and south elevations. According to the HDRB, this is a simple house, an adobe rectangle topped with a hip roof with one corner cut out to serve as the porch. It holds about 945 square feet and includes 2 bedrooms, a bath, a living room, and a kitchen. It is stucco and roof. Its stucco and roof are recent, but the windows are older, probably dating to the original construction. It is purely vernacular. Estimated date of construction is 1936. This is a photograph of the south elevation, east portion, camera facing north. To the right, the east porch with the low wall appears in the 1958 aerial. East elevation, camera facing west. North elevation, camera facing southeast. Staff recommends the historic status of the structure be maintained as contributing per 14-5.2C, designation of significant and contributing structures. Staff further recommends that the west elevation F1 and the south elevation F2 on the following facade diagram be designated as primaries. The staff report recommends only the west facade F1 as primary. However, I have since learned that with pitched or hip roof structures, it is preferred to designate two facades to capture the profile of the roof. With that, I can take any questions.
Any questions for Ramon at this time? No questions? Yes, Member Beach.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, Ramon, the last part that you said, I think you said you were recommending two facades as primary because of the hipped roof. But did you say the roof is new?
The roof is new, but the form has been there since its original construction.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Applicant, would you please come forward? And you will need to get sworn in.
Ma'am, would you please state your name and raise your right hand, state your name and give us your address, please?
Amelia Robinson, 125 Durand Street.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson, keeping your right hand raised, please. You solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, and do so under the penalty of perjury.
I do.
Madam Chair, Ms. Robinson has been sworn.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Robinson. Do you agree with staff's recommendations? If yes, say
Yes.
so, and if not, tell us why not.
Yes, I do.
And do you have anything further to add?
I don't really. It's a fantastic house and we love it.
No, it's very well maintained. It's a very nice house. Thank you. Any questions for the applicant or comments? Member Benvenu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess this is maybe more for Ramon, but I know you've now added F4, the south facade, as a proposed or recommended primary. But I understand that to be solely because of the roof line, which makes perfect sense to me. But wouldn't it also make sense to have that facade only go to the eastern corner as a primary and not include that little pony wall that encloses the patio? Because that's outside of the roof line.
Madam Chair and Member Bienvenue, the reason that I included that was because it dates to before 1958, and I thought it was significant enough feature that it added historical context to its evolution over time.
I guess I thought maybe that was the case, but then you said you hadn't designated that facade at all originally, and the only reason was because of the roof. So that didn't really seem to imply that it was because of its historic nature.
And now
I was-
has indicated it is.
Madam Chair and Member Bienvenue, I was originally following the John Murphy's recommendation on the primary facades. However, upon further consideration, I think that facade, including the low wall, pony wall of the porch area, does have a structural integrity or historical integrity. And of the four facades, the west facade and the F4 south facade have the most visibility.
True. Do we know when it's probably in the report, when was the patio added?
There's two portions to the patio you can see in this photograph.
The walls, I mean.
It first shows up in aerials in 1958.
All right, thanks. I understand your position. Makes sense.
Thank you. Any other questions, board members? Or comments? It appears not. I will open it for public comment. Mr. Eddy is coming forward and he has already been sworn in. Let's see what he has to say.
Madam Chair, board members, I simply want to support staff's recommendation here. And I'm glad that he picked up on the fact that the roof structure is what really drives the decisions here. The little added stretched out roof covering, I'm assuming is excluded from any of this status. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay, great. All looks good. Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else in this audience wishing to comment on this project? No one? Anyone on Zoom?
Yes, Chair Rios, Stephanie Beninато. Stephanie has previously been sworn.
Okay, Stephanie, speak loudly.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I agree with staff's recommendation of making or continuing this as contributing and designating the two facades. And I really have to say that I understand that Mr. Murphy has been the go-to historian here for a long time and has quite an archive to be able to produce these reports. But I don't think that staff should primarily rely on just Mr. Murphy's report. And so I'm really glad that Ramon took the time to really look at this and make his own determination, because really, I think that's what staff's supposed to be doing. And again, I appreciate it when staff takes that time and isn't just regurgitating something that a party brought before them, but has actually looked at it, analyzed it, and made their own independent recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom?
Chair Rios.
Board members, if you have nothing further to say, I will entertain a motion. Member Beachai.
Before I do that, can we just clarify, Ramon, the roof of the house ends at the porch on the north. Is that right? This relates to the discussion of the pony wall.
Yes, Madam Chair and Member Beachai, with the exclusion of the porch that was added before 1958, it was a hip roof. The addition of the porch turned it into a single slope roof, so they've got a different profile to them.
Right, okay, just want to make sure I was saying that correctly. Thank you. I'm ready to make a motion.
Please do.
In case 2024-007893 HDRB at, oh, I'm sorry, no. 2024-007918 HDRB at 125 Durand Street. I move to designate the west and the, I'm sorry, F1 and F4, the west and the south facades as primary, excluding the pony wall at the northern end that connects to the porch, in order to include the hipped roof only in that facade. I'm sorry, I probably said that wrong. Not to exclude the portion of the roof that is not hipped.
Is there a second to this motion?
A second.
And may we have a roll call vote, please?
Member Benvenu,
Yes.
Member Baldo,
Yes.
Member Bescheid.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion has passed.
Thank you, Ramon, and thank you, Ms. Robinson. Next case is located at 237.5 Casados Street. And I see that the applicant is here. And Ramon, this is also your case, so may we hear from you again.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. This is case 2024-007893 HDRB for an addition. 237.5 Casados Street is located on the east side of the street, south of Don Felix, and in the West Side Guadalupe Historic District. The project's property is outlined in black, and the subject structure is outlined in blue on this slide. 237.5 is located behind the main house and partially obscured from the street by a fence. The former garage workshop dating from pre-1958 is an approximately 550 square foot adobe and concrete block rental unit indicated in the existing site plan on the left, outlined in blue. The structure is non-contributing. The applicant now proposes to add 130 square feet addition to a height of 11 feet where the maximum allowable is 12 feet 7 inches. It is outlined in red on the proposed site plan to the right. I think I'll skip that because that's a little too much information for you. The existing floor plan on the left and the proposed is on the right. In the upper left, the existing south elevation. In the lower left, the proposed. In the upper right, the existing north elevation. In the lower right, the proposed. In the upper left, the existing east elevation. In the lower left, the proposed. In the upper right, the existing west elevation. In the lower right, the proposed. This is a photo of the west street view. The casita is just visible above the coyote fence to the left. Main residence 235 Casados in the foreground is contributing to the West Side Guadalupe Historic District. This is the south elevation of the casita 237.5. The addition would go to the right of this photograph. The east, north, and west elevations going left to right. Staff recommends approval of the proposed project and finds that the application complies with section 14-5.2D general design standards for all historic districts and 14-5.2I West Side Guadalupe Historic District. With that, I can take any questions.
Thank you, Ramon. So this is behind the main house, as you stated, and it's a pretty small building. I think you indicated it was about 500 square feet. And what is the public visibility of this building?
Very limited. The most visible would be the west facade. It's currently its visibility is currently obscured by the coyote fence, but we don't take that in consideration when we're looking at the public visibility.
Right. And it's pretty far back as well.
Yes, it is. The addition would have almost no public visibility. It wouldn't have any public visibility.
Thank you, Ramon. Any other questions? None at this time. Chris? You have already been sworn, and what else do you have to tell us?
Madam Chair, I don't have any.
It seems like a rather simple addition.
It is, they need a bedroom.
Any questions for Mr. Purvis, board members? It appears not. Anyone in this audience wishing to comment on this project? We have one person coming forward. And you need to get sworn in.
Would you state your name and give us your address, please?
Name is John Reynolds. My address is 237 Casados.
And Mr. Reynolds, if you would raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, and do this under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Reynolds.
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members. I reside in the main house, and I'm aware of the applicants of the matter before the board, and the applicant has made me aware of his intention, and I have no objection to it, and I hope the board supports it.
Thank you, John. And very nicely kept main house. Very nice. Yeah. Anyone on Zoom?
Yes, Chair Rios. Stephanie Benenato, previously sworn, would like to speak, and you may unmute, Stephanie.
I am unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just have a question because I thought they were adding a kitchen on, but it seems like there's already a kitchen. I thought I heard Mr. Purvis say it was
No, it's a bedroom.
okay, I just wanted a little clarity about that. I think that it is not visible from the street. It's not contributing. I don't think we should really talk about the coyote fencing too much though, because that could always come down. But I think that, of course, that you should approve this. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to guess no one else on Zoom. Alrighty. I will entertain a motion, board members.
I'll make a motion. Thank you, Madam Chair. In case number 2024-007893, HDRB at 237.5 Casada Street, I move to approve the application as submitted.
And do I hear a second?
I second the motion.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Benvenu,
Yes.
Member Baldo,
Yes.
Member Bescheid. Yes. Madam Chair, your motion has been approved.
Thank you. And Chris, thank you very much for your very clear elevations, drawings. Next case is located at 435 Calle La Paz. This is Lanny's case, and Lanny, you have the floor. This is a contributing building.
Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. This is case 2024-7894 HDRB for 435 Calle La Paz for a remodel of a contributing structure. 435 Calle La Paz is located south of Acequia Madre Elementary on the east side of Calle La Paz and west of Camino Manzano. The property at 435 Calle La Paz is a single-family residence listed as contributing to the downtown and east side historic district. The residence is currently 1,927 square feet with a 1930s original portion and a 680 square feet 1969 addition. The residence is constructed of adobe, hollow clay tile, and frame, and has a deteriorated stucco brocade finish. The residence has two main entrances. There's one at the northwest corner and one on the south facade of the original building. The entrance on the south opens to a gravel yard and is graced with a well-proportioned portal. The entrance on the northwest corner is stuck behind the garage and was created as part of the 1969 addition work, as there were previously windows in that facade. All windows are aluminum slider windows installed as part of the 1969 addition construction. The 1969 addition resulted in significant changes to the older home. These involved across the exterior, replacing all of the older wood multi-light sash windows with aluminum sliding units. The change of windows resulted in new fenestrations added to the east elevation, removing the front door and shifting it to another location. In addition, several rooms in the older adobe portion were reworked and a bump out closet was removed. The entire house was covered with brocade stucco, which was popular at the time. Positioned near the northwest corner of the lot and facing west stands a contributing 288 square foot adobe one-car garage. The garage is about 38 inches from the north property line. It has a modern metal overhead door, which was installed as part of the 1969 remodel. A brick cornice with a header row lock stretcher header pattern crowns its roof. There are remnants that suggest a Viga framework, and an old wood panel door provides pedestrian entrance on the south facade. A concrete floor and plaster to the walls were added in the 2000s. In January of 2024, the HDRB designated primary facades to the residence and upgraded the garage from no status to contributing and designated its primary facades. Now the applicant proposes the following exterior alterations: to construct a 206 square foot addition to a height of 12 feet on the south and west of the 1969 addition. The addition will hold a fireplace with chimney casement windows and skylights. to construct a 145 square foot portal on the south side of that new addition, which will have 3-foot high pony walls on the east and west and stuccoed columns on the east, on the ends, and 2 viga columns in the center to mimic the existing portal. The existing portal will have a 3-foot high stucco pony wall added to the west, and the beam corbel ends will be cut off and stuccoed over. The concrete floor will be raised with the addition of brick, and the ceiling will be restored with new finishes. It will replace all windows with divided light windows in colonial white, 3 windows on the east elevation, the window on the non-primary south elevation, and 2 windows on the west elevation will be increased in size with some orientation alteration. We would construct a wood fascia and install downspouts and gutters on the west and north elevations, refinish the entry door on the south elevation of the house and paint it in a forest green. Replace the garage door with a door with wood trim and divided light windows in colonial white. Stucco the house and garage in La Habra cementitious buckskin. Construct a freestanding 161 square foot trellis to a height of 9 feet. On the northeast side of the garage, the trellis will be constructed of viga columns and rectangular beams and cross members and will be stained with a medium brown natural wood stain. Construct a 4-foot high with irregular tops coyote fence trash enclosure at the northwest corner of the residence. Replace the existing metal fence on the west property line with a new 42-inch high metal fence, which closely matches the height and design of the existing fence. Install brick paved path along the south of the residence leading from the gate to on the west to the southern entrance, and install exterior lighting. The fixture's design has not yet been determined, but will be approved by staff prior to installation. Staff recommends approval of the proposed project and finds the application complies with section 14-5.2D, general design standards for all historic districts, and 14-5.2E, downtown and east side design standards.
Thank you, Lanny, for your report. Board members, do you have questions for Lanny or clarifications? It appears none at this time. Applicant, Mr. Martinez, would you come forward and add anything you want to what Lanny just told us?
Hi, good evening. Our proposed plan consists of 4 major parts. We're replacing the windows. We're adding adding to the existing bedroom, and inside we're reconfiguring the bathroom and the closets in the bedroom itself so that we get some more space and break up that long bar that's going across the back of the building that was added in the late 60s. And then we're putting a portal at the end that mimics the existing portal that's on the main facade. We're also building a trellis outside of one of the doors behind the garage. This house, as you may have seen, has no outdoor living space like some of the houses that were done in the 60s where there's no real space outside. And so this trellis will provide some space. We're also doing that portal that you saw on the end of the new addition to the bedroom, which also creates some outdoor living space. And then we're replacing the fence at the front. And I want to give you pictures of our proposed fence, because we did our best to actually pick a fencing that as close as possible matches the existing fencing that is existing on the site. that's that old fashioned fencing that has the round tops. And so we're doing that again. The fencing that we picked has a rust finish. And that's what we intend to do. That again matches the existing fence. Um, and then also that is a fence that comes at a standard height of 4 feet tall, 48 inches. And even though I said 33 foot 6 inches, I would like to propose that this fence be approved at 48 inches. We are allowed a height of 59 inches. That's 4 feet 11. That was given to us as a height calculation for fences done by the staff of the historic. So we're still well within that. As you might imagine, we're facing the backyards of many houses, and so they have very tall walls, and we're not doing anything like that. And this fence is intended to be open, and the visual is intended to be through the fence. And so, and it's not very high, even at what you see there, but that is a 48-inch tall section that we got as a sample for the fence. I also would like to give you a letter that was sent by the neighbor that lives on the south side of the building. So our additions is facing his property, and he was very enthusiastic about our design.
Thank you, and that can be made part of the record.
With that, I would like to conclude my remarks.
Thank you. Board members, questions, comments? Member Benvenu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So like your neighbor, I'm very enthusiastic about your design as well. I really want to just say how appreciative I am to the applicant for what you're doing here and for the architect in bringing it to fruition. I was worried about this property. It's a beautiful property. It would be so easy to wall it off. And I know some people would desire to do that. But I just love the way you've maintained all of the really wonderful historical qualities. So the garage, which is so important, I think, you're keeping as is, but you're actually improving it by adding a much better door to it. The portal, which is also, I was concerned that was accepted from the designation on the primary facade, but I think what you've done is quite lovely. I really pointing out that there was an oddity about those extended corbels that you've taken care of. I think it's actually going to be an improvement as well. The fence, I just thank you for. I mean, I just think that's so significant that you've decided to maintain that openness to the street front on that very narrow passageway. And then you've taken what was the really not attractive part of the house and then vastly improved it in a way that's quite in keeping with the rest of the property. So I just think you've done a fantastic job in this case.
Thank you for your comments, Member Benvenu.
Thank you.
And anyone else? Member Beachside.
Yeah, Madam Chair, just one question about the stucco. Are you intending to keep the brocade stucco, or do you feel like that was original to the house?
We're keeping the same color as much as possible, but not the same brocade, because it's not something that's easily done right now. So we're intending to just have it be a standard sand finish on the stucco.
Cementitious.
I echo Member Benvenu's comments. I think all the improvements are very nicely done. And I especially want to thank you for the fence. I believe the last time you were here, I made a comment that the existing fence was very common during the time that the house was built. And I'm surprised, happily surprised that you are not wanting to build something solid there. And I mean, that's a fairly quiet neighborhood. And for us to be able to see your house and now that you're going to improve it, to be able to see it right through that fence, I think that's a good quality. Thank you. Let me see if anybody in this audience wants to comment on this project. Anyone in this audience wanting to comment on this particular project? No one. John Eddie was looking around, but I guess he doesn't. Anyone on Zoom?
Yes, Chair Rios, Stephanie Benenato, may I unmute?
Thank you. I just had a question about the trellis. I wasn't really sure, is that like a pergola or is that like a trellis where plants are growing up and creating a visual barrier? And where is that in relation to other parts of the house? I'm not sure, because the visuals went by fairly quickly, but I think at some point you are going to have to confront the idea that 1969 is historic and that whatever windows were used at that time were historic, rather than making it all look like what we would like to envision as Santa Fe historically. And so I've heard from your comments, however, that you think that it's making the building itself more homogeneous. And so I guess that's your reason for allowing historic material to be changed. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else on Zoom? Did you wish to comment in reference to Ms. Benedato's?
That 1969 edition was considered non-primary when we went for the status review. But it is historic, and we recognized that, but it is designated as non-primary.
Thank you, Lanny. Board members, if you have nothing further, I will entertain a motion, please. I'm looking right and left.
Good.
No.
Either one.
Sorry, in case 2024-007894 HDRB 435 Calle La Paz, I move to approve the application as submitted with the condition that differs from the submittal that the metal fence may be 48 inches in height, and that the stucco be cementitious.
Wait here a second.
I second the motion.
Roll call vote, please, Amanda.
Member Benvenu,
Yes.
Member Valdo.
Yes.
Member Bichette.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion has passed.
Thank you very much and good luck on your project. And the last case this evening is located at 1122 Old Santa Fe Trail. And I'm going to guess those applicants are coming forward. And Lanny, this is your case. May we hear from you?
This is case 2024-007780 HDRB for the property at 1122 Old Santa Fe Trail for a remodel of a contributing structure. 1122 Old Santa Fe Trail is located at the intersection of Old Santa Fe Trail and Camino Rancheros and just to the west of Museum Hill and Camino Lejo. 1122 Old Santa Fe Trail is a contributing single-family residence in the Historic Review Historic District. A fragment of the Santa Fe Trail is located on the property as an archaeological site on the southern portion of the lot. The Donald and Dorothea Mossman House is a 2,803 square foot Spanish Pueblo Revival single-story residence constructed in 1962 with a guest house to the south that is connected by a breezeway that was constructed in 2005. The main residence is stuccoed block painted white with 2 portals on the north elevation, one original to the structure and one built after 1966. The original west portal has square rafters and an exaggerated overhang, and is trimmed with traditional double shoe capitals. It holds the formal entry to the house and is designated as the primary facade. The windows consist of larger sash and fixed units characteristic of the period. They are surmounted by textured header recessed in stucco. The doors are meme replicas with a typical display of geometric and floral figures. The 1,501 square foot guest house runs parallel to the older home and has modern windows, including lines of small square casement units across the north and south elevations. The structure has an overhang on its north facade. The north facade has a brise soleil applied more stylistically than functionally. The contributing garage is original to the property and is located a few feet northeast of the house. The freestanding block constructed building has doors facing north and a window on the east elevation. The contributing stucco planter to the northeast of the residence within the parking circle is most likely original to the house from 1962 and enclosed an oval lawn and grid pattern garden. Garden has given way to native plants. While most of the residence does not stand out, elements of the primary house are characteristics of its time. The north elevation, specifically the portion that holds the original portal and entry, best represents the period. The property came before the HDRB in June of 2023 for a status review and primary facade designation. No other cases have been found. Now the applicant proposes the following exterior alterations. On the main residence, they want to construct a 323 square foot addition to a height of 11 feet 3 inches on the southeast of the main residence to connect the 2,645 square foot main residence to the 1,498 square foot guest house. The addition will have sliding glass doors on the east and west elevations. An exception to section 14-5.2 D2D to exceed 50% of the historic footprint is requested. They would like to construct a 193 square foot portal addition on the east side of that new addition, which will be similar to the north elevation portals with 2 columns and corbels. This portal and courtyard off the sunroom will have a brick patio. Construct a 116 square foot portal addition on the west side of the new addition, which will be similar to the north elevation portals with 2 columns and corbels. The portal will have a new wooden deck to replace the existing deteriorated wooden deck. Downspouts will drop from the portal roof into cut areas in the deck, which will contain cobble catch basins and a drain piped to a below grade conveyance system that runs to the cistern. They're going to repair the chimney on the main residence and install a new gas stove insert in the existing firebox that will be vented through the existing chimney. They'll re-roof the main residence using modified bitumen and remove all unused venting from the roof. Replace all main residence windows and wood doors. Replace all main residence windows with wood windows with a white aluminum clad exterior. The 2 windows on the primary facade will match existing picture windows profiles with no grills or operable sections. West elevation windows will change in size and location with 1 additional window being added. Oops. I was in the middle of a sentence, sorry. On the east elevation, window types will change and the northernmost window will be changed to a door. The south elevation windows will all change in size and an additional window will be installed. They're going to install a sliding glass door on the northwest facade where one does not currently exist and install an overhang over the new door. Repair both northwest facing portals as needed and replace deteriorated materials and paint the portals in white. We will stucco the residence and additions using La Habra cementitious stucco in buckskin color. replace all exterior lighting, which will include wall sconces and wall-mounted security lighting. Those sconces will be the same as those currently installed at the guest house and will have a shielded light source as required by code. New security light fixtures will be on a motion sensor with a timer, and new recessed downlights will be added under the portals at the sunroom addition. They'll install a new canale with downspout on the south side of the main house. The canale and downspout will be painted in the color Mexican sand to match the stucco. Install gutters and downspouts at the new sunroom portals. The gutters and downspouts will be painted white. Replace the existing gutter and install a downspout on the northwest facing non-primary portal at the main entry. The new gutter and downspout will be painted white. On the garage, they want to insulate the garage inside the existing exterior wall and roof cavities. Stucco the garage using La Habra cementitious buckskin. Repair and paint existing north elevation garage doors. The paint will be white. Re-roof the garage with modified bitumen. Install 4 skylights at 24 inches by 24 inches. The skylights will not be publicly visible. Install a pedestrian door on the southwest wall and install a small overhang over that door. An exterior landing with steps will be installed at the door, and replace the exterior security lighting with a timer and sensor. On the guest house, they want to install overhangs over each of the 3 sliding glass doors, install canales in the new parapet and modify roof drainage, repair or re-roof as needed in modified bitumen, remove decorative siding on the northwest elevation, and stucco using La Habra cementitious buckskin. And there's a healthy list of site changes as well. They would like to construct an open freestanding 597 square foot carport on the northeast side of the residence to a height of 9 feet 6 inches. The carport will be a wood framed column and beam structure with corbels in a style similar to the existing portals and will be painted white. Install a privacy wall and wooden vehicular gate along the northeast property line at Old Santa Fe Trail. The new wall is a blend of coyote fencing and stuccoed pilasters in La Habra cementitious stucco, buckskin color. The pilasters do not exceed 6 feet in height. The fencing will be a minimum of 8 inches below the top of the pilasters. Latias will be of varying heights. They'll install a 20-foot split vehicular gate at 5 feet in height at the driveway entry that is set back far enough off the street for a car to stop in front of the gate. The vehicle gate will be stained in dark slate. Demolish the existing wire and coyote pole fencing along Old Santa Fe Trail and at the existing driveway entry. Restore and restucco the contributing curved wall at the center of the driveway loop with the La Habra cementitious in buckskin color. Replace a 4-foot high yard wall at the northwest yard in the same design as the existing and stucco in La Habra cementitious buckskin. Install 2 4-foot high gates into the northwest yard, one near the new carport and another near the new guest parking area. All wooden gates will be painted white. Resurface the driveway with Santa Fe brown gravel and expand the parking area. All existing areas of asphalt surfacing will be removed. Install gravel and red brick pavers in the northwest yard and install landscaping. Repair or replace as needed the existing red brick patio steps and install red brick pavers to cover the existing painted concrete patio slabs. Install a cistern for rainwater harvesting and landscape irrigation below grade on the south side of the main house. Install 2 new yard walls between the guest house and the garage to create a courtyard. The rear or south wall will be 6 feet in height and the inner or north wall will be 4 feet in height. Both walls will be stuccoed with La Habra cementitious stucco buckskin. Stucco the existing east yard wall with La Habra cementitious buckskin. remove the violating or illegal shed and metal paneling attached to the wire fencing behind the guest house prior to permitting. The staff report shows a total of 80% of additions to the historic footprint. However, the applicant has provided updated numbers which reflects the previously excluded unheated space of the historic footprint. With the corrected figures, the additions come to 64% of the historic footprint. The applicant has requested an exception to exceed 50% of the historic footprint per section 14-5.2 D2D and has addressed the criteria for that exception. Staff does not find that all of the exception criteria have been met, but the board may find that they have upon further testimony. Otherwise, staff recommends approval of the application as it complies with 14-5.2 D general design standards for all historic districts and 14-5.2 D, 5.2 F for the historic review design standards.
Thank you for your report, Lanny. Why are you not agreeing with the exception criteria?
There was only one of them, and that was that it's a hardship. Number 2 on the criteria. It is not a hardship to have 2 different instances to 2 different buildings. We understand, as the staff understands, that their intent is to use that guest house as a space for their grandchildren to stay when they visit. So they're wanting it as a single building, but it's not actually a hardship to have 2 buildings.
Thank you. And you identified the primary facades as the main building.
Yes, they're on the north side of the building. It's the original portal section. Let me see if I've got a photo of it for you. All right, there's a lot of slides. So in the upper left corner here on that northern facade, the one in to the further right is the primary facade.
Thank you. Any other questions or clarifications, board members? Member Beachai.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So on this primary facade, can you just clarify, is the carport going in front of that primary facade?
No, let's take a look here. Let me see if I can find so if you're on the east side, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't drive and talk. So on the east side, on this lower right photo, approximately where that red car is, just a little bit further to the north is where
Okay, thank you. And then would you mind clarifying where the contributing yard wall is? And does the garage have a primary facade designated?
The primary facade on the garage is the north facade where the doors are. And the yard wall, you can kind of see it in this picture on the top left. It's the very low wall that's just to the side of this red car.
Circular.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Lanny, the proposed vehicular gate on Old Santa Fe Trail, can you identify exactly where it'll be in reference to Old Santa Fe Trail?
It's in this, pretty much in the same location as this metal gate here. That's in this photo.
Other questions, Member Benvenu?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Also on the gate. First of all, I think it's a nice project. The only question I have is about the gate. I guess 2 things. One is it's going to be slate. Was that the color proposed?
Yes.
And isn't the trim on most of the rest of what's being built and existing white?
Yes.
Does slate pick up on anything else on the property? To your knowledge? We can ask the applicant too. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I don't think it does. I think it's just that it kind of blends in with the coyote fence itself.
Okay. And then did I hear that there are pedestrian gates that are going to be white?
Yes, those are interior to the property in the courtyard areas.
Okay. And our fence guidelines encourage fenestration on vehicular gates. Was that something that was encouraged in this case for the applicant?
I've got the image of it. It's, it's got like the little slates. It's kind of hard to tell from this image, but they're actual slats that come down. So there's space between the slats.
There's open space between the slats? Okay, good. So it is fenestrated
Well, there is see-through.
Yes.
to some
you can
extent.
see through it.
It's not
I can-
solid.
I can verify that with the applicant too. Thank you. Anything else?
No, other than a clarification from the applicant on those questions. Thanks.
Okay, applicant or applicants, come forward, please. Get sworn in.
State your name and give us your address, please. I'm sorry, can I trouble you to say your last name again? Ms. Odoms, do you solemnly declare and affirm that the testimony you have in reference to this item shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, and do this under the penalty of perjury? Madam Chair, Ms. Odoms is sworn.
Good evening. Tell us what you want us to know about this project.
Really trying to improve the property. There was an addition done in 2005 that's kind of off. The look of it is just not really in keeping with the beauty of the contributing structure. And so by connecting the two and trying to kind of pull it all together is really the intention here, and just to give it kind of a new life, basically, and really in respecting of the beautiful historic part of the existing property. In terms of the gate, which I guess there are a lot of questions about, the dark slate is just, it's the name of a brown stain. So the intention is for it to match the coyote poles. And that was the only thing there. The
It
other
will have
question,
visibility.
yes, it can. It was, actually, we did not know that that was encouraged, but we'd be happy to do.
And will the skylights be low profile?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Other questions? Other questions? Anyone in this audience wanting to come and talk about this project or ask a question? It appears there's a person coming forward. John Eddy, he's already been sworn in.
Madam Chair, board members, I just had a real quick question. I know that there are remnants of the Santa Fe Trail here on this property, so I'm just making sure that none of the improvements or additions at all will impact those trail remnants. That's something that can be discussed.
Thank you, John.
I can address that. No, they will not be.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
And Lanny, can you tell us what district this is in?
It's in the Historic Review District.
Review. Wanted to make sure that this was on the record, that it's in the review and not on the east side. If there are no further, anybody on Zoom?
Yes, Chair Rios, Stephanie Benenato, you may unmute.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I just think that hardship has not been proven. Wanting to pull it together is not displaying hardship. Even having grandchildren visiting for a couple of weeks or a month doesn't really justify in enlarging the house to such a degree, especially when a lot of it seems to be portals and things that probably could be avoided. And I just again point out that it seems like we keep changing things and for uses that are extremely short-lived in terms of the actual property. It's not like there's a multi-generational family living there all year round. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom? Board members, I will entertain a motion if you have nothing further. Yes, Member Finley.
Happy to do so unless someone else had anything further to add.
It appears.
None? Thank
it's
you,
up
Madam
to you.
Chair. Okay, so case 2024-007780 HDRB 1122 Old Santa Fe Trail. I would move that the board enter findings that the exception criteria have been met, noting that based on the, first of all, noting that based on the recalculations by staff, that this the additions will total 66% of the existing footprint. So they still do need another exception to exceed the 50% set forth in the code. I would have findings entered that pursuant to 14-5.2D2D, number one, that these exceptions, this exception criteria request would not damage the character of the district for the reasons set forth in the staff response. Number three, that they strengthen the unique heterogeneous character of the city by providing a full range of design options to ensure that residents can continue to reside within the historic districts. Also, for the reasons set forth in the staff response. And number two, are required to prevent a hardship to the applicant or an injury to the public welfare. Because contrary to the staff response, I would find that the intent to combine these two residences into a single home rather than which would require either an exterior connection between them or the proposed addition does satisfy exception criteria number two. And based on the exception criteria having been met, I would move that the application be submitted with the additional condition that the gate be redesigned to ensure that it is fenestrated. And that can be, the revised design be submitted to staff for approval, and that the color be consistent with the coyote fence, which would not be a black or gray, but some form of a brown, or alternatively white, as consistent with the trim and the house and other structures.
Thank you.
I covered
Member
everything.
Benvenu.
It's my
Before
second.
we go to the second, I was going to ask Lanny, Member Benvenu stated that it was 66% of the
Oh,
historic.
maybe it's 64, actually.
And I think it's
Sorry.
64.
Yeah,
Okay.
64.
Just to make sure. Yes, Member Beach.
Which I will second the motion. I maybe just add a friendly amendment to add to the exception criteria being met, that the proposed combination of the two houses is a rather light touch with a sunroom addition, replacing a breezeway, which is already existing. And that's sort of the preferred way of connecting the two masses.
Accepted.
Roll call vote, please.
Member Benvenu,
Yes.
Member Baldo,
Yes.
Member Bichette.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion has passed.
Thank you very much. Applicants, thank you. Anything under discussion items? Nothing. Matters from the board, anybody? I just want to encourage you to go around looking for the proper properties that deserve recognition. So, and Friday's the deadline, so I would encourage you to do that. And I also encourage you to go to the different districts. Our next meeting is on Tuesday, March 26, 2022. And look at the time. Gosh, we are really, look at that clock. We were fast tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I will entertain a motion for our favorite word, adjournment. Not really. We love to come over here.
I move to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please, Amanda.
Member Benvenu, Member Valdo,
Yes.
Member Bichette.
Yes.
Member Rios. Madam Chair Rios.
Thank you.
Approved.
Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you at our next meeting.